Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, I just want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for joining us in our meeting this evening. I'm joined by Commissioner Schwartz, Commissioner Vallone, Commissioner Brown, and Vice President Nagy, and I'm Jennifer Karen. Again, welcome to the meeting. We will begin our agenda with approval of the meeting minutes from our regular meeting of August 25th, 2025.
Madam President, no corrections. I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 25th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Brown, a second from Commissioner Schwartz. Any comments or discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and then we'll turn to our presentation from John Manito, from the President of the West Shore Recreation Commission. If you could please come to the podium. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. My name is John Manito, and as Jennifer was saying, President of the West Shore Rec, and congratulations on your new position here at Lower Allen. And so you have some big shoes to fill there, so I'm sure everything will work out good. So, and anyhow, I want to thank Nate for flipping me over from the meeting from 2 weeks from today till tonight, and I appreciate that very much. I just want to, say thank you for your loyalty and support and commitment to the West Shore Rec. I understand you already reviewed the contract and you already signed it, and that makes my job much easier standing in front of you, so I appreciate that. You know, the West Shore Rec's been around for 57 years now, and I've been involved with the West Shore Rec for 34 years, and we've come a long way, and we only have four employees that do all the work for the West Shore Rec, and it's amazing what they can do, and with all the programs and getting the volunteers, and just, with everything that's going on, we continue to grow. We had a good spring and summer. Our registration for the fall is growing. We're up about 20% from last year, so everything looks pretty good and moving in the right direction. But getting back to the four individuals, when you receive these brochures, I mean, there's programs in there for all ages, all year long. So they do a tremendous job. We got some new trips coming up, and they're always thinking out of the box, trying to come up with different programs and different ideas and what have you. So, I mean, these programs are, they are second to none, believe me, because they're really great, and it's very helpful for people that move into the area that like to see what's going on with the West Shore, with the recreation and stuff like that. So, again, I want to thank you. I know we had just real quick, we had a budget meeting about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and Joe was part of the meeting, and at that time we decided we lost Goldsboro. They decided to drop out of the West Shore Rec due to financial reasons. So. Looking at the numbers and figures and what have you, we decided to bump it up from 320 to 330, and that's because of the expense, and prices keep going up, instructors and stuff like that. So, and the difference, as you all know by now, what the difference is for your increase is $1,709.70. So. That is your increase, which you already know and you already passed and what have you. So, but anyhow, it's, I just want to say thank you again for your loyalty and support and commitment. And I also want to thank Joe and Mary Beth that come to our meetings regularly, and they do an outstanding job letting us know what's going on with Lower Allen and what have you. So again, Joe, thanks very much. And Beth, she's great also. She comes there and faithfully, and same way with Joe, and it's great because that way we get there with the only 5 communities or townships, boroughs, and we go over different ideas and things like that. And, so far, we're moving forward, even though we lost Goldsboro, but, it's not the end of the world, and we pick up the pieces and we move forward. So, again, thank you all for your support And if you have any questions or anything, I'll try to answer them. If not, that gentleman over there will try to help me out later down the line. So if you have any questions or anything, I'll be glad to help out.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again for being here tonight. I'll open it up to the board to see if there's any comments or questions for you.
Just real briefly, Madam President, thank you, John, for everything that you do for West Shore Rec.
Yes.
And, thank you to the staff of West Shore Rec, too,
Yes.
for everything that they do to make those dollars go as far as possible. I know dozens of friends, family, and neighbors of mine who
Right.
use those services and really appreciate them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're the nuts and bolts behind the machine, and God bless them. I mean, and that's why I feel so comfortable working with them and and working with the other communities and what have you. It's, and it's tough getting good help and keeping good help, and that's the key to our success, because we have same instructors over and over again, and then volunteers, and it's just a blessing that we have the people behind the scenes that do all the work and everything else. But thank you again, and good luck, Jennifer.
Thank you
Okay,
very much. Okay. All right, well,
All
thank
right.
you so much for coming.
thank you.
See
Have a
you
good
soon.
meeting now.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Okay, and at this time, we'll turn to audience participation. At this time, any item on the agenda or any business pertinent to the township can be raised. We do ask that attendees sign in, and those who are speaking need to just state their name and their address for our record. And we do kindly ask that you limit your discussions to 5 minutes per person. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to bring something before our board that's either on the agenda or pertinent to the township? Yes, sir. Is it something on the agenda, or?
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, if you'd like to come to the podium and state your name and address, and
Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank each of you for your service to the township. My name is Michael Nye. I'm a resident. I live at 31 Scarsdale Drive. Tonight, I'd like to address the ADA-compliant ramp and curb construction that's ongoing in Lower Allen Township. Specifically tonight about T intersections in the neighborhood where you have a street with a side street coming off of it. Residents who live across from these intersections are having ramps constructed on their properties. This was not communicated to the residents. We didn't know until the utilities came in to mark the lines, and shortly after that, the construction crews showed up. When we call in to question this, we're informed that it's a federal law and there's nothing we can do about this. Fortunately for us, that is not absolutely true. The ADA law is being misinterpreted here. The ADA law says that it has the concept of accessible routes. And not every route is an accessible route, but where there's an accessible route, it has to comply with the ADA. In my example, close to my house is Rockaway Drive that meets Scarsdale. That's one of these T intersections. The ADA says an accessible route if it touches a corner. The corners need ramps. The accessible route in this situation of Rockaway would be to traverse 250 feet down to Neponset and cross at that corner. From an ADA perspective, the current corners that are there can be compliant if they direct pedestrians along Scarsdale instead of across Scarsdale, without the need for the construction on the other side, on my side of the street. There are federal rules and guidelines that address how to make these existing corners ADA compliant, but again, I hope one of the takeaways here is that we don't need the additional construction on the other side of the street. The township is justifying these additional ramps, citing that the original design of the neighborhood in the 50s had the intent of crossings being at these intersections. So 70 years later, intent is hard to prove, but I think we can look at the design of the current curbs of the intersection and also consider when it was designed. In the 50s, obviously sidewalks and crossings were a thing. If the builders had wanted a crossing there, they would have poured a walkway. Instead, they did the exact opposite. They put a parkway in, which is the small strip of grass that's in front of our properties. The parkway separates the road from the sidewalk. Additionally, when the development was created, there were trees planted in the parkway. I grew up in that neighborhood. My family's grandfather was an original owner on 33 Scarsdale. So my whole life I've been coming to the neighborhood. These trees were throughout the neighborhood up until about the last 20 years when they've been disappearing because they're causing sidewalk problems and pipe problems. But my point here is that if someone was to stand at that intersection 50 years ago, an able-bodied sighted person standing on the corner would look across Scarsdale, and they would see a green parkway, some trees, and probably vehicles parked in front of their homes. There's no expectation of there being a crossing there. And the ADA says routes must be accessible, but it does not mandate new routes be created. So if the board was to accept the premise that A, crossings were not intended to be here, and B, that the law does not require new crossings be created, then the ramps that are being put in should be considered nice-to-haves. As nice-to-haves, imagine you have the exact price per curb or per ramp. I imagine each ramp costs between $6,000 and $10,000. That's for something that's not necessary over the entire township. There's a lot of savings to be realized if we can clarify the ADA law. So my ask of the board is to put some oversight into this ADA work to clarify what the ADA law is. I personally believe that a little bit of deep research yourselves you'll come to the conclusion I have that there's been an overreach here affecting property owners. But if needed, I would ask that the board hire an independent ADA consultant and get clarity around this. And with the lens of truly what the law, the spirit of the law is, and the law says that existing all curb and ramp construction be evaluated for A, if it's necessary, and B, is it safe? The last thing I'd say is with these nice-to-have ramps, that they do come with burdens to the homeowners, that I believe because this has been sprung on everyone so quickly without notice has yet to be realized. There is year-round maintenance, trimming and edging the walks in the summer, and then snow removal. Anyone who lives at one of these intersections knows that snow removal, this is the worst possible place for it because that's exactly where the plows push their snow. And then there's parking restrictions. Residents will no longer be able to park freely in front of their property. They won't be able to park in front of the ramps. I understand one of the rebuttals to this will be that there are easements, but I do believe the township has a responsibility to be a good shepherd of those easements. And in this circumstance, at least across from me with Rockaway and Scarsdale, it's this additional construction is not needed, and unwanted. If the board finds out that some of these construction projects are unneeded, I believe if the rest of the township is like Lower, or like Ross and Wayne Manor, that there could be hundreds of thousands of dollars saved in unneeded construction. What I would ask is, if that's the case, that possibly a little bit of that could go back to the property owners who've been affected already and have had their, the free use of their property kind of impacted here. Maybe some of that could go back to make it right to them and restore their properties to how it was before this project. So thank you, everyone. I had a lot to say and only 5 minutes to say it, so if there's any questions, I'd be glad to.
Okay.
Take
Nate,
them.
would you mind pulling up on the map? Just, it might make it easier to talk about if it's up on the screen.
Okay. So what we're seeing here is the intersection where Rockaway joins Scarsdale. What I'm suggesting is that the ADA law says that existing routes must be accessible. It does not mandate new routes be accessible. The existing corners that are there can meet ADA code if they direct pedestrians along Scarsdale here at Rockaway instead of across. The problem would be is if you direct someone across the street, then you need to have a receiving ramp on the other side. Yeah, so what else? That's the main argument, is that the accessible path for here is to travel to travel 250 feet down to this corner and cross here. That's the accessible path to cross Scarsdale. And the same situation handle is elsewhere. I'm not saying, since the schedule was a little light here, I am a certified web accessibility specialist. My certification is directly related to the ADA. I say that because I've given many presentations at places like Highmark and Harrisburg University on accessibility. I focus on digital accessibility, but I always have slides regarding environmental accessibility because curb cuts are very important. So I'm not anti curb cut or ramp. I'm for them where they make sense. And what we're doing here is we're creating, the township is taking a ramp at every intersection approach, which is, it's not in the spirit of the law. It's a nice to have, as I tried to outline earlier, but it's also, it's wasteful. And it's taking away rights from homeowners. So some ramps are necessary. I just ask that with the correct lens of the true ADA law, so that decisions are made based on the law and not fear of being sued under something that is being misunderstood, that decisions can be made where to put these crossings.
Okay, and with that, thank you so much for your comments. I think we'll just turn it over to our solicitor who's here this evening, since the spirit of the law and the interpretation of the law has been raised. If Solicitor Minor can respond to those statements.
Well, first of all, I rely upon the professional engineer your Director of Public Works, Mr. Powell, and he's relying on PennDOT specifications. So I'm no expert on engineering, but I can read the manual, and they're saying that there needs to be a ramp there. And from a legal standpoint, though, the ADA will put the liability on the municipality if we don't do this. And I've seen this too many times because City of Harrisburg has been sued. PennDOT itself has been sued when you don't do this. And I think the test for the disabled or person that has accessibility issues is whether that's reasonable to expect them to go down that street as opposed to crossing where there's an intersection. And I don't think it matters at all whether it's a T in this case or whether it's a four-way. I think the ramps need to be there. And, you know, when I see these lawsuits, the disability advocates have won, and, you know, the ramps eventually go in anyway, probably at greater cost because they've waited too long. But the disability advocates' attorneys are also paid their attorney's fees because these are civil rights actions. So I cannot recommend changing the plans, and I believe that your Director of Public Works may have some comments, but I believe the contract requires these ramps, and they've been, the contractor's aware of the construction, and they should get done in the construction season. But from a legal standpoint, I can't recommend not doing that because I don't believe they're nice to have. I think they're necessary, and I think it's legally required that the township do this.
Thank you, Solicitor Minor. With that, Director Powell, would you like to add any comments?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to have me explain stuff on the computer a little bit, show how we got to this
Would
decision,
the board
or?
appreciate that, or?
Yeah, sure.
I think that would
I think
be
it'd be
helpful.
great.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
So, having come into this, a lot of our staff had already had these projects worked through and locations determined, and I want to say that I do fully support that. So, having come into this later in the year, I don't think that any change is warranted to what was proposed. I guess we already have the aerial. The issue with this is if this was new construction, coming from a design perspective, a design background, if this was all like a new development, maybe the argument could be made that we provide these crossings across Scarsdale at maybe every other intersection or something like that, whatever we could get, whatever the developer could get away with ordinances and things like that. The issue that I have with it is that there is implied crossings there today. So if you see, it's hard to see, but right here, the sidewalk comes up 5 foot along, 5 foot off of Rockaway Drive, and it goes right up to the curb line. Same thing with the sidewalk along Scarsdale, goes right up to the curb line. If we go into Street View, you can see that it's just a curb cut. There is no existing ramps there today, but there is an implied crossing. So as this gentleman was saying, and as I've been saying as an example, I don't know if it's good or not, but it helps me understand it, you know, and I think it helps others understand it. When you depart from an airport, you take off from a runway. When you get at your destination, you expect to land at a runway. Same thing goes for ADA accessibility. When we make this compliant, what we have to do is make a ramp coming down here to Scarsdale and then ramping down here to Rockaway. Why do we have to do it here? Because it's already there today. It's already implied that they could step off the curb and cross. So when we we create a ramp there to cross Scarsdale, what we have to do is we have to put in a ramp on the other side here receiving it. If you reference PennDOT Design Manual 13, their publication 13M, which is their one of their design manuals. If you go into Chapter 6, you can actually see where it references that at T intersections, they make the provisions so that you do not have to create 2 crossings across the main drag with 2 receiving ramps, one here and one that would be here. you're able to eliminate one of those and make just one. So that's what we've done throughout this project. So at any of the T intersections, we essentially have 3 ramps. Or we would have 4 actually, but 3 crossing corners, one here, one here, one here, and then one here. This crossing on this leg would not be needed. So that's according to PennDOT standards. So this is essentially what is there today. Again, you have the implied crossing, it goes up to the curb. So therefore, we need to make it compliant. How do we make it compliant? We construct curb ramps. And that's what, this is a rendering of what would be constructed out there for Rossmore Manor at all of the 3 lake intersections. If I have a sample for this one, this is a sample from, and this is from PennDOT's, they have a pocket guidebook for ADA construction. It's more of a quick tutorial. Here is a sample from a higher volume road where there is no implied crossing. That sidewalk coming up along the side road does not go right up to the curb. It was easy for the municipality to say, take the low risk, say, there's no crossing there today, we don't need to put one in, so they just put one here and they direct, as this gentleman is saying, along the road. But that's not what we have. We have this scenario. So staff is taking the approach that we need to construct this to compliancy and do as this rendering is showing. And that would add the additional ramp on the side of Scarsdale where there is no ramp today. It's a, cost-wise, it's probably about $5,000 to $6,000 per ramp. I don't want to be the one to say that we could eliminate every other intersection or just do one at Neponsit and one at Belmore and eliminate the 3 in the middle. Like, where do you stop it? Because you're taking on the risk as a township to be sued, just as the solicitor mentioned. So that was our approach to it. That's why we made the decisions that we made to put ramps where we did along these T intersections.
Okay, thank you, Director Powell. That was very helpful.
May I have 1 or 2 more minutes?
I'm going to let the board speak first, and then are there any comments from the board based on Director Powell or Solicitor Minor's comments first?
I had a quick question. I just wanted to clarify with the implied crossings for ADA purposes, are they essentially treated as a crossing, as if there was another landing on the
So
other
when
side?
that neighborhood was constructed, and this goes really for any ramp in the past, things weren't built to today's standards. So we call it a crossing. Really, there is no curb ramp there per se, but it's still a crossing. So to make that crossing compliant, that's where the design for curb ramps comes in. If that answers your question.
And if I could just jump in, because the ADA dates from 1990, so it's kind of old. It is 35 years old, but there's still neighborhoods and subdivisions in the township that predate ADA. So the township is, in a sense, catching up to the standard now.
Yeah,
Thank you,
sure.
Mr. President. I just have a comment and then a question. The comment I have is, over the last several years, we've actually strengthened, and I'm glad we have as a board, the idea that when plans come before us that want waivers, let's say for sidewalks, that we've made sure that we clarified, how we put that to rest in that particular plan, so that down the road, whether that's 10 years or 50 years from now, there's some record that the intent was that as things build out, that perhaps we would want to have a sidewalk where we waived one because things are connecting differently or more, more prevalently in neighborhoods or in the township and the communities. So for that, I kind of think what's implied with what happened 50 years ago, I'm actually would think that it would probably have been an intent that eventually what was built out there would be built up around it, and that we'd want connectivity. As the solicitor just said, the ADA came after a lot of that. So where that's at, I'm not sure, but I think that I'm glad that we would want to make sure that in the future, if things need to change for connectivity, that we would continue that. Having said that, you know, I totally understand, you know, you've got an entire neighborhood, you know, affected by this, individual property owners, and these circumstances are gonna be a challenge probably to get through for everybody. So there's a couple things that were said that I guess I would just ask, and Director Powell, maybe you can answer them right off the bat, and if not, that's okay. You can get back to us. Regarding snow, so there could be some incidental, I don't think it would be hazards at this point, but incidental consequences that might affect the residents. You know, it was mentioned about perhaps, you know, snow removal and stuff like that, because we're used to plowing a certain way. I'm sure that you've already kind of maybe thought down the road and how that would happen. So let's say a resident isn't dealing with extra piles in those intersections to have to really get out of the way, particularly in an ADA, under ADA circumstances.
Right, so I've already discussed with staff some new roadways, some new routes that we're gonna have to add. And this was discussed as well, that we'll have to be mindful of this project as it closes out this fall. How we'll have to adjust accordingly for plowing snow in the winter months.
Okay, and that's to kind of make sure that I think what was implied is that maybe there would be extra burden on the homeowners. And then the other question I would have is, are there other things like that you've kind of taken a look at that could be you know, that we'd have to adjust maybe how we work in that neighborhood from the township standpoint that could affect the residents, other than the standard, you know, residents are responsible, we're all responsible for taking care of the stuff in our easements.
Right, the biggest one I think is just snow removal, and we've discussed that. Haven't been aware of anything else that this will drastically change, but we'll certainly adjust accordingly if we need to.
Okay, and so, Madam President, based on the solicitor's comments and what I know about this right now, while my heart goes out to everybody involved having to kind of navigate through this, I think I, at this point, would be okay with this proceeding as staff has presented it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bone. Any other comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Mr. Nye, thank you for coming out and expressing, you know, your concerns and your opinions. I, for one, hate government overreach. It's one of the reasons I wanted to sit up here. Your concerns have not gone unnoticed. There's a lot of research went into this, we received a document in preparation of, hey, this is kind of what the residents are concerned about. This is what the township staff is concerned about. And Director Powell did a great job of providing us information. And when I read through it and read through, you know, kind of the way this is written out, I tend to agree with Director Powell, as much as I hate that it, you know, infringes on your property and your property rights. What I would say is 70 years ago, I think we as a whole, meaning the nation and probably the world, did an abysmal job of taking care of people that were physically disabled. I think there's a reason the ADA was written in 1990. I think it's an embarrassment it took that long for it to come out. But as we stand here, maybe to some of us going an extra 250, or, you know, if you look, if we were to eliminate all these on every street, it might be an extra 1,000 feet down and 1,000 feet back. And for somebody that's in a wheelchair, that's, you know, or somebody that has, you know, aided walking sticks, that's a long way. And I don't know if that's necessarily fair of us to ask of them. So my concern isn't from a lawsuit perspective. My concern is you made an excellent statement, is that the township has a responsibility to be a good shepherd. And I feel that that's what we're doing in this case, taking care of all of our residents. And in this particular instance, it happens to impact you in somewhat of a negative way, in that now, you know, you have this additional maintenance of this curb. But I think when we look at our residents as a whole, I think this is a good thing that we're doing for the residents, to give them the same accessibility and, you know, not have a ramp to nowhere. I think that would just be very unfair for us to do. So I heard everything you said, and I agree with a lot of it, but I think in this particular case, you know, I think these ramps are probably necessary, so.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Vice President Nagy, did you?
Commissioner Brown said essentially everything I was thinking, I appreciate it. You worded it very well. I'm not a fan of any undue burden on our residents or extra burden, but, what, we talked about what's nice to have. I can't think of anything better than making accessibility options for our residents, or, as Director Powell said, I can't quantify, and I don't think Solicitor Minor nor Director Powell can quantify what is an acceptable distance to make someone with limited mobility go, and to be able to offer that to the neighborhood and those residents. That's something I'm very comfortable with.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Nagy. With that, was there any additional comments you wanted to raise?
If it's okay.
Just a moment or two, please.
Thank you, Director Powell. The focus of Director Powell has been on the intent of the corner. So I just want to point that out. It wasn't about the other side of the street or, what somebody sees when they walk across there. A point I'd like to make is that these corners are, if there's any question about the intent of the corners, they're all ripped out now, or they were ripped out. So the township has the opportunity to make the corners back so there's no question, so that you're not directing pedestrians across, giving them a ramp to nowhere. So the questionable intent of a corner, and I would say that those are the default corners that were always poured. They're cement, they're rounded, a lot of times utility poles around there, but this was the time to make those corners, remake them how we want them. So there's no question about what the intent of them is. And then when I refer to these, again, I don't believe the ADA law is requiring this construction on the other side. When I call them nice to haves, because I still believe it's not in the spirit of the ADA law to do this. It's nice and noble, but nice to haves have no stop. I mean, it's nice to have, as there's talk today about what's distance, nice to haves, we could have them in the center of every long street. Like, that's nice to have. So I'm just trying to differentiate between legally required, nice to have, and that there's ways to do this that don't touch properties, unless they want it. Some people may want it. I understand that. I've been listening or reading the Facebook responses. Some people have the same sentiment about what's a nice distance to travel. But the homeowners I've talked to do not want this. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming tonight. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the consent agenda. This is the time where any commissioner, staff member, or anyone in attendance who would like to have an item on the consent agenda removed for further discussion can request so now. Is there a request for removal of any of the items on the consent agenda?
Hearing no objection, Madam President, I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice President Nagy and a second from Commissioner Brown. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item on our agenda falls under the Public Safety Department, and we'll turn it over to Director Hall.
Thank you, Madam President. In the memo in your packet, this is about the approval of purchase of pagers for the fire department, EMS fire departments. Back in July, the board approved the general fund money for township projects. Was approved $41,000 for fire and EMS pagers. Since then, we've reached out to the vendors that provide them, the ones that would be compatible with the county system, and that's what kind of drove this. The current county pager system for first responders is going to be end of life with the new P25 radio system. So the county's in the process of doing that, which created the need to buy these new pagers. So we reached out to Hoffman Radio Network. They are a CoStars vendor. The information in your packet illustrates the CoStars piece, and their quote came in slightly under the 41,000 at $40,298. So I would ask the board approve the purchase through Hoffman Radio Network of the pagers for Lisburn, Lower Allen Fire, the DFR Division of Fire Rescue Services, and EMS as well.
And just to emphasize, this is already an item that was included within our 2025 budget amendment.
Yes.
So with that, does anyone have any questions for Director Hall?
No questions, Madam President. Mic isn't on. I'd make a motion authorizing the purchase of the P25 compatible pagers for the DFRS EMS departments in the amount of $40,298.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Brown, a second from Vice President Nagy. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and thank you, Director Hall.
Thank you.
The next section of our agenda is devoted to community and economic development, and with that, I'll turn it over to Director Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Commissioners. Just two quick items. The first item, zoning hearing board update. We received no applications for the September 18th zoning hearing board meeting, so that will be canceled. The one item that we had previously discussed, the 1713 Hummel Avenue, that applicant we met with them. They have requested a continuance or granted a continuance to the October 16th meeting. So that will be going along with any other applications that we may receive for that meeting. That's all I have for the update. The next item is discussion and possible action to approve a recording deadline extension to September 9th, 2026. This is for SLD number 2024-07, the True Hotel Preliminary Final Land Development Plan. In your packets was a letter from Barley Snyder, their counsel. They have indicated several things, including possible economic issues. Again, we've seen these in the past. I think we saw it with the Cloud 10 car wash. It's one of those things that doesn't really make sense to require them to go back through the whole approval process here. So if the board would be inclined to approve that.
Anyone have any questions for Director Sweeney?
If nobody does have questions, Madam President, I'd move that we approve a recording deadline extension request to September 9th, 2026 for SLD number 2024-07, True Hotel Preliminary Final Land Development Plan.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Schwartz and a second from Commissioner Vallone. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very
Director
much.
Sweeney. Okay, next is Public Works, and with that, we'll turn it to Director Powell, please.
Thank you, Madam President. The only item on the agenda for Public Works is for discussion and possible action for awarding the Creekwood Boat Launch Project to Kinsley Construction LLC, the lowest responsible bidder, at $332,461. In your packets, I included a memo with the bid results that outlined that we had 11 bidders for the project. And the lowest responsible bidder was Kinsley, as I mentioned, and the solicitor has reviewed that. So this project does have a $150,000 grant from DCNR for the construction as well.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you for your memo with all the details. That was extremely helpful tonight, so thanks. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Director Powell on this?
Is this project expected to be finished for the next season?
We're hoping to get it constructed this fall as much as they can, so if the board is inclined to approve this, then we'll be contacting Kinsley tomorrow, getting a pre-construction meeting set up ASAP, and hopefully they can get moving on it. It's a pretty straightforward project with some parking lot addition, the ramp construction for the boat the launch going into the creek, and then some of the road work entering the park. So pretty straightforward. Hopefully that can get completed this fall.
Okay.
We'll see.
So if possible, next season, people can enter there.
Oh,
and
definitely by
go
next
all the way
summer,
down
people
to-
will be
take a
able
shorter
to.
leg down to New Cumberland.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done the long leg.
Yeah.
In fact, one time we've done it all the way up from the Side to New Cumberland. That's quite a run.
Gotta pack a lot of snacks.
You have to pack a lot of snacks and plan on doing a lot of paddling in the, I call it the doldrums.
The late schedule as outlined by our consultant was a finish in early April.
That's
So that
terrific.
would be, like I said, a
Yeah,
late.
if that could happen,
the
that would just
latest
be
for
a
everything.
nice addition for next spring. Great.
Okay, any other questions for Director Powell? Okay, there's no questions.
Madam, sorry.
No,
I was
that's
just
okay.
gonna
I was
say, I
just
make a
gonna ask
motion to award the Creekwood Park Boat Launch Project to Kinsley Construction, the lowest responsible bidder at $332,461.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Brown, a second from Commissioner Balone. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and thank you, Director Powell.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next is a resolution under finance with Director Knoll.
Thank you, Madam President. Last meeting, we had gone over the fund balance policy. We are looking to update this. It was 20 years old. So tonight, I'm here to present it for approval. If there's any other discussion.
Okay, does the board have any questions or comments or anything they'd like to discuss before we consider adoption? I know we did review this at the last meeting, so perhaps it's all been vetted.
Yeah, I think you did an excellent job and long overdue, and, but thank you for doing it. It's what we need, so.
Thank you.
Make a motion, Madam President, to adopt Resolution 2025-R-40, establishing a fund balance policy for township governmental funds.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice President Nagy and a second from Commissioner Schwartz. Any final questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0, and thank you again, Director Knoll.
Thank you.
Okay, the next section is for Manager Davis, who have 2 items, I see.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I have 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first item being, excuse me, discussion and possible action. This would be to adopt Resolution 2025-R41. It would authorize the township to enter into the Strategic Management Planning Program for professional services to assist in development, adoption, and implementation of a multi-year financial management plan or related municipal financial and management initiatives and improvements. That's a long sentence. As you recall, Mr. Kaiser was here for DCED to present this program to the board at our last meeting. We took this to the Finance Committee. They were all in agreement that we would bring this in front of the board to enter into a resolution. Mr. Kaiser did give us that approximate amount of the $80,000 for this first portion of the program to take place. That's an estimate, so if that would happen to come in lower or slightly higher, we can amend the resolution, but based off of a township our size, he thought that that was the appropriate amount. But I'll be happy to entertain any questions you have.
I just had a quick one in terms of the timing. So if the resolution is adopted this evening, what's the next step and sort of the timing for getting
I
started?
will submit the grant application. We will put the matching funds into our budget, so the process wouldn't start then until 2026.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other questions for Manager Davis?
Just to understand correctly too then, so the proposed projects that would come out of this, that we would be getting a 50% match from DCED?
Correct,
Yeah, I mean, it's
correct.
it's kind of a
Commissioner
no-brainer,
Mhm.
because these are things that we have to do anyway, and getting in this program
Brown. Mhm.
saves our taxpayers a lot of money, so.
Okay, we'd be looking for a motion to adopt this resolution then, if there's no other questions.
I would make that motion, Madam President, to adopt there we go, I'll get it right. Resolution 2025-R41, authorizing the township to enter into the Strategic Management Planning Program for professional consultant services to assist in the development, adoption, and implementation of a multi-year financial management plan or related municipal financial and management initiatives and improvements.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Balone and a second from Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Madam President. The next item I have for discussion on possible action also brought this forward in front of the Finance Committee. There is another program that DCED and the local government services offers for EMS programs and EMS departments at townships. They offer technical assistance to the departments, and it's free of charge. There's no cost to our municipality to participate in this program. So if we are interested, I did a draft letter of intent for the technical assistance. That would most likely also start in 2026. They review improvement of our processes, operations, and any type of service delivery, and they offer suggestions and recommendations to our township.
And this is all for
It is
EMS?
EMS.
Got it.
Madam
Any
President, if there's no further questions, I would move that we authorize the township to participate in the Governor's Center for Local Government Services program requesting technical assistance to support the township's Emergency Medical Services Department.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Schwartz and a second from Vice President Nagy. Any final questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Manager
Thank you.
Davis. Okay, before we head into Commissioner reports, I'll just ask if there's any directors or captains or staff that have anything to bring to the attention of the meeting tonight for the good of the order. Okay, seeing none, we'll turn to the Commissioner reports, and we'll start with Commissioner Schwartz, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to, in our packets this evening, was included an invitation to the Night at the Library event on October 25th. Wanted to highlight that for y'all. It's an excellent event. Me, Lindsay, and my parents went last year, and they really hit it out of the park. It was very fun. Hoping to improve even on that this year. There's a silent auction, 8 book-themed stations with food, drinks, and mocktails, live music. We're hoping to have a local author/critic discussion. So it's going to be a very fun night. There's sponsorship opportunities too. Anyway, just wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to bring up something that came up in among the Rec and Parks Board email chain, essentially. Lemoyne has published a request for comments regarding their proposed West Shore Gateway Rail Trail. The plan is essentially to not the rail line that crosses 18th Street, but the next one. They would essentially use that, they turn that into a rail trail that would connect the West Shore to basically all the connections leading to the city. It would also connect, Lower Allen with Lemoyne. It would kind of reach down to New Cumberland. It seems very interesting, and I'm planning to submit comments myself. I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention so that if you have any of your own suggestions or opinions or comments, wanted to give y'all the opportunity for that. I will forward it to staff as well in case there's any input that could be provided at that level. Today we held our next meeting of the Traffic Calming Committee with Director Powell, which, as I was talking to Manager Davis, I thought it was very productive today. Director Powell got the draft policy out, and basically everybody on the meeting had contributions to make, and I thought that it was very encouraging. I think that it's moving in the right direction, and I'm happy with how that's going. So looking forward to continuing to work with everybody on that. A couple of weeks ago, we also had our zoning ordinance monthly meeting with Jim Bennett and Director Sweeney over here. Unfortunately, I had to join late because of a work conflict, but I'm looking forward to continuing to work with that group on that important project, and just a lot of very exciting things going on. I also wanted to highlight on September 12th, Friday, at the library, I believe, there is a musical program going on at 6:30 p.m. Called Cheers to Duets, put on by the Vallones. It seems like a very fun, interesting program where Commissioner Vallone and his wife Vicki will be taking the audience through duets through history. So I'm very excited about it. I know library staff is excited about it too. So wanted to put in a plug for that as well. So Cheers to Duets. It's September 12th. Yeah. And that is all.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Schwartz. Those were great updates. Thank you. Commissioner Bloom?
Well, thank you, Commissioner Schwartz, for the plug. No, the library, Frederickson Library is a great place, and my wife and I are very grateful for the opportunity to be able to share and help the library in this way. I would just like to say thanks to all staff and everyone that makes things go in Lower Allen. Things are going really well here, I believe, and I see it, and it's just such a joy to witness how things are moving along. I haven't had this past couple weeks any interaction with residents that was even remotely unpleasant. So I would say, and that's not common to begin with, but thanks to staff for keeping a really high level of professionalism going in here, and the board for continuing to just cement really a lot of integrity in this place. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bloom. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, great work, Manager Davis, on the strategic management planning program. I think it's really going to help slate things for the near future here for us, and really help out in terms of taxpayer dollars. I also just wanted to say in general, a lot of you in this room I've seen over the past couple weeks. I've had a lot of questions asked of me, and you guys have provided great information, and I greatly appreciate it. And it's not always what people want to hear, but as long as we tell them the truth, and that's transparency is important. So also, I just wanted to point out, thank you to Director Sweeney for introducing me to Kasia today. So many people have talked to her, and I've heard a lot of praises, and I just wanted to tell her thank you for how she's been handling a lot of difficult situations, and it really goes a long way, and her whole attitude and her approach to things are greatly appreciated. So thanks for that. And lastly, I just want to end. I told my daughter that I would say happy birthday to you tonight. She did not understand why I could not cancel this meeting to have dinner with her on her birthday. And I tried to explain it to her, but the throw of the hand and the turn of the head told me she wasn't getting what I had to say.
You just have to buy her that puppy.
Yeah, but 11 years old today, and I just want to say to Sydney that I love you very much, and I'll see you as soon as I can.
Thank you, and happy birthday, Sydney. Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Vice President Nagy.
Thank you. As Commissioner Schwartz mentioned, we started the zoning steering committee and starting to work through that. One of the big goals that was outlined is making the interpretation of our zoning easier to understand for our residents. We had the initial kind of a demo presentation, and I think that goes a long way as we start to make both our permitting processes easier, our zoning easier to understand, so I significantly appreciate that. I think it's also a chance for Commissioner Schwartz and I to kind of impart what we see as the plans come through, and kind of some of the repetitive issues, and get a chance to be the voice of the board as we look deeper into our zoning and try to think forward what we want the township to be in the next 10, 20 years. Lastly, just, it's kind of off the cuff, but there isn't almost a single thing on tonight's agenda that doesn't involve some form of a grant from all departments. So appreciate everybody working so hard to put in the amazing amount of effort to use resources that are out there to save our taxpayers' dollars. From the boat ramp in Creekwood Park to the STMP plan, all of these projects go a long ways in making our money go further. So thank you guys for working hard on that.
Okay, that's a great point. Thank you, Vice President Nagy. I'll just quickly mention I am attending the Pennsylvania Municipal Authorities Association Annual Conference tomorrow. That's at the Wind Creek Casino in Bethlehem. I'll be on the conference side, though, of the Wind Creek, not the casino side, just for clarification. I'm also attending the upcoming CapCog Annual Golf outing. That's on September 15th at the Armitage Golf Course in Hampton. All the board is invited. I know I think Manager Davis is planning to go to that as well. There's the 175th anniversary event on October 4th. I know everybody already has it on their calendars, but I'm just going to say it again. October 4th, it'll be a great celebration of our 175th anniversary. And lastly, I'll just close out by saying the last couple weeks have, as many of us know, with back to school, have we started the last couple weeks of chaos, returning our children to school. And I just want to say, I'm just so comforted and proud when I see our public safety around the township, whether or not it's at the schools, monitoring the traffic in the mornings and in the afternoons because of the schools and the buses, at our football games. It just brings real sense of comfort and pride, honestly. So that's all I'll say on that. So it's just, seeing them in our community and seeing others in our community that are there supporting our township and our schools is great. So. With that, we will turn to executive session. I believe we do have to recess to executive session tonight due to discussion on 4 items, the first of which is the Benecon Health Insurance Surplus and Employee Health Insurance Contributions. The second is policies regarding employee benefits and compensation. The third is an update on the right to know law appeal, and the last item is the solicitor's fee for 2026. So with that, we will recess to, yes.
One thing, it is hard to believe it's been 24 years this Thursday since September 11th. Happened on very beautiful day like today. So 8/20 seems to stick in my mind as that. So on that day, if you would just take a second to remember everybody, whether it be citizens, public servants, on that terrible day, but 24 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that remembrance. Appreciate that. Okay, so at this time, we will recess to executive session and we will be back. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?